right, guys, I'm rocking the shirt for Frankfurt. We're here in Frankfurt, Germany, right here in the state of Hesse. This is the site of the St. Paul's Church, which played a huge role in the German Confederation in the 1840s. Now, this place actually served as the meeting place of the German Federal Assembly in 1848 and 1849 during the German Confederation. Now, for those of you guys who don't know what the German Confederation is, I'm going to kind of give you a little bit of background on that. After Napoleon came through Europe and basically disbanded the Holy Roman Empire, after he was kicked out, the Congress of Vienna established what was called the German Confederation, which was a loose union between all of the German states. And it didn't really have a sole governing body. The Emperor of Austria, who at the time was the last Holy Roman Emperor, Francis II, he was appointed as the president of the German Confederation. But it wasn't really most of the states were self-governing, and it was just kind of like a loose little thing. And it didn't really have too much central authority. The German Confederation didn't. And so what happened was in 1848, huge movement across Europe happens. There are revolutions all across Europe in 1848, advocating for civil liberties like freedom of speech, freedom of press, freedom of assembly, things like that. Economic reform, all this stuff's going on through Europe. And the president of the German Confederation at the time, the Austrian Emperor Ferdinand I, actually ends up abdicating the throne. And so the German people advocate for a federal assembly to be created that is freely elected by the people for each of the states within Germany. Would all meet in this building here. Now, it was first established in 1848, but it only lasted a year. But the German Confederation did the Federal Assembly did a lot of things. One of the things that it did was it introduced a lot of reforms, like I said, for those civil liberties, giving the German people more rights that they hadn't had before. And it really made Germany more of a modern country and would really set the foundation for it becoming a continental-wide power later down the line. The German Federal Assembly actually offered the King of Prussia at the time, Friedrich Wilhelm IV, which at this time, Prussia was basically the dominant force in Germany because Austria was kind of fizzling out. By this point, Austria had a slow decline, but Prussia was growing and growing and growing. So they offered the King of Prussia the title of Emperor of the Germans. He actually turned it down because he didn't want to be crowned by people who were elected by free citizens and not chosen by royalty or chosen by nobles. That's why he turned that down. But later on, his brother Wilhelm I actually ends up becoming German Kaiser in 1871 after the Franco-Prussian War. But due to complications, the German Federal Assembly was disbanded in 1849 and only lasted about a year, and it did pave way for a lot of new reform in Germany. However, it was mostly, for the most part, unstable because it didn't last as long as it could have. And later down the line, the German Confederation starts to break up, and Austria gets out of there. Prussia becomes the dominant force, basically takes everything else, joins the German and forms the German Empire. This church has largely been rebuilt, as you can probably tell by the bricks. Frankfurt was bombed during World War II by the Allies, specifically the British and Americans. The city was almost destroyed to rubble, just like most German cities were, and this was rebuilt during that. So that's why it's not the exact original structure, but just kind of an interesting little side note there. But yeah, this is where the German Federal Assembly met during the German Confederation. It's really interesting. That is the St. Paul's Church. Thank you guys for watching. Be sure to comment, like, subscribe, and goodbye. Wah!